the cloud,
There we
and
go.
then I'm going to share with you.
Awesome. So everything I just told you was a pack of lies. And if you didn't write it down or you don't remember it, it's lost to the ether because I forgot to press the recording button. So tough luck. What was your question? It was about
What is dermo?
well, dermo. Okay, so
Like a virus or what is it?
just to back up about all the stuff we just lost to the ether now. Okay, we were talking about scallops, how the harvest was going. It wasn't looking so great. Yeah, possibly about these warmer waters and we were talking about oysters and mortality and warmer winters and whatnot. And that brings us around to let's just mention some of these pathologies of shellfish. Okay, in oysters, there are numerous oyster diseases, okay? The ones that are prevalent on the east coast of the United States are dermo, which I'll come back to, MSX, roseovarus. There are others that are not quite as, let's say, common as those three. Like seaside organism, there's hematopoietic neoplasia and Maya arenaria, and you all knew that. That actually is a very fascinating one because what does that mean? It means clam leukemia in soft shell clams. And it's the only known, as far as I know, it might have changed in the last year or two or 10, that it was the only known invertebrate to have demonstrate cancer, a form of cancer, hematopoietic neoplasia, or yeah, like him, the pathology of Willy Bobo. What do you got? You got COVID there? Anyway, so dermo and MSX are both caused from a parasite. Okay, it's a parasite that, so in the case of dermo, that's Perkensis marinus is the vector for dermocystidium, something or other. They call it dermo. MSX stood for multinucleated spheroid unknown until it was known. No, unknown? No. Okay, so once it was known, they took a picture, a micrograph of it, and found another protozoan, which is Haplosporidium nelsoni. Okay, now here's a weird thing about it. So MSX and dermo were very prevalent and are, I guess, maybe somewhat still prevalent. Dermo certainly prevalent. MSX is a nasty one. When you get MSX, you're going to lose your oyster industry. It was rampant in the Chesapeake, and shellfish was moved to the north, and so our oysters have, a lot of our oysters have dermo. It's something that you would send out to have. You would send a sample to a shellfish pathology lab. They would dissect it. They would treat it with a dye that picks up. They determined what it was from electron microscopy, but I don't think they have to do that they don't have to do that to analyze dermo. They can do a dye or stain. I'd have to look at, it's been a long time since. But shellfish pathology, I'll tell you what, I'll talk about shellfish pathology for the next hour, and we'll see how many people are not in a coma. Okay, I used to go to these conferences and it would be like hours of shellfish pathology. I should stay up on it, but I just know all that you need to know. I don't need to know anything that you don't need to know. Let's put it that way. So you've got a parasite in dermo. Dermo is kind of, I'm going to say it's kind of ubiquitous, but we can deal with it. And here's an interesting thing about dermo. So for instance, there was a grower in Shelter Island who was saying, I don't understand it. I got a bag of 100 oysters and I go to get have a party and 10 of them are dead. And the next week I come back and another 10 are dead. And I say to him, well, send off a sample to the shellfish pathologist. He does that. The shellfish pathologist comes back and says, oh, Mark West, mute, somebody mute. Wow, I hear that.
I did.
Is that you? Just mute yourself for a second. Is it gone? It's gone. No, it's not. Is that me? Anyway, the shellfish pathologist came back and said, I've never seen such a high prevalence of dermo in any sample I've ever taken, which means the oyster that was sent from Shelter Island was chock-a-block with the dermo parasite. But she said, or I'm implying, there's two ways you can look at it. The prevalence, how much there is of it, and the virulence, how much does it kill? Okay, so we can have high prevalence here and low virulence, whereas as you go south, more south, you get high prevalence and high virulence, okay? So we can manage around dermo. This is why if you overwinter oysters for 3 and 4 and 5 years, you can do that. I've got oysters that are probably 15 years old. Not all oysters either get enough dermo or they can just survive it better, or you know, I don't know if it's an immunity issue. They've been working on immunity for a long time, and immunity doesn't. The people that are working on it swear by it. I don't know enough about the stocks to worry about it. MSX, couple interesting things about MSX. MSX is a known parasite, but apparently it requires a secondary host to infect the oyster. So in other words, you can take an oyster that has MSX and put it in an aquarium or a tank with an oyster that doesn't have it. And that oyster doesn't necessarily transfer it. It's got to have a secondary host, which is really the reason why I find that very interesting, is that they don't know what the secondary host is yet. And that many years ago, I'm thinking it's like 15 years ago, I was called up to the Bredor Lakes up in Cape Breton, all the way up in Canada. They wanted to start a spat program. They were very interested in the spat program, and they had lost their oyster industry to MSX. And everyone was kind of baffled about that. So they had a big conference up there about it. I got to be the plenary speaker, which I was very happy that they shipped me up there and met some great folks. But to make a long story short, the Bredor Lakes, you go up to the Bredor Lakes if you've ever been up there. They wanted a spat program. I toured the place for 3 days, and I said, basically, there's a problem here. In order to do something like a spat program, you need people. Okay, you need a community. You need like a town or something. You need something other than all these bald eagles and moose and stuff that I've seen for the last 4 days. They showed me one little. They said this looks like it'd be a good place for a spat program, and I'm looking at it saying that looks like a good place for maybe a canoe trip to the remote. I don't know. It was just fascinating that there was no way that a spat program was going to happen there. But when I was touring the Bredor Lakes, which are pristine, they're gorgeous. Everything's beautiful everywhere. I've got a slideshow on it. I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you sometime. It's on there. Some of the oysters of France and Canada, including the Bredor Lakes. It's on our website. By the way, on that note, before I forget, in the chat column of this Zoom are 2 links to overwintering lectures that I thought were on our website, but are not on our website. They're on YouTube. So there's last year's how to winterize your oysters, and there's 2001s how to overwinter. Because everyone's asking me, how do you overwinter? Well, I thought we went through all of this, but so I'm going to get to overwintering in a minute. But so I'm touring the Bredor Lakes, and everything is tiny. And then we go by this one spot that there's a factory on the water. And it's like, what the heck is that factory there? Oh, that's the gypsum plant. The gypsum plant. Okay. Yeah, they send a tanker up and it picks up the gypsum and it goes back up. It's coming from the Chesapeake. Okay. And they blowed their bilge water in the lake instead of offshore. And they're wondering how they got MSX, because nobody could figure out how MSX would survive and flourish in the Bredor Lakes. My feeling is it doesn't. It gets re-inoculated every year. But bilge water from the Chesapeake. So if you want to find the secondary host, here's the punchline. If you want to find the secondary host, analyze the water in the bilge of this tanker, because it's got to be in there. And maybe that's a hard task, but I mean, I suppose it's like sampling the Chesapeake. You would think that they would know it now. Anyway, so that's MSX dermo. Rosia veris is a bacteria. They found that out. So Rosia veris, they used to call it juvenile oyster disease. That you can breed out of the system. So we have resistant to Rosia veris. There is another oyster disease called QPX, which is quahog parasite unknown. I have to bone up on my QPX because I don't know if that unknown is still unknown. I bet it's known now. That was it. So anyway, that's some of the information about pathology. How do we get to pathology? We're supposed to be talking about something completely different. Scallops. We talked about scallops a little bit. Oh, well, but they are now here's the thing with scallops is that scallops have a known virus that's been around for ages, but it gets exacerbated by warmer temperatures. So they're thinking that that is a major driver of the most recent semi-demise of the scallops. The difference here is that the scallops are spawning and the spawn and the recruitment is taking. So it's not like there's 2 scallops left in the bay. Back in the day of brown tide, that's the survey that was done found 2 scallops in the entire bay. So that was pretty much the end of scallops. Good. Does that answer anything that anyone wanted to know? Okay. So I am anticipating that folks want to find out about overwintering oysters or just say hello. It's kind of an open forum. I will remind you again that the links to how to overwinter, all the rigging, all the things that I've done, I'm gonna preface those 2 links that are in the chat for those lectures that are on YouTube. Or if you YouTube like I did, because it's like, geez, where are these things? Are they on YouTube? And I just looked up Spat overwintering lecture on Google, and up came YouTube of the 23 and 21 1 hour plus lectures on how to overwinter your oysters. So if you want to do that, look at that, and I'll upgrade it for you while we're here, because there are some things that you can do now, and there's some things that you don't have to do. So we'll get to that in just a minute. The only other thing was Shellbration's coming up. I'll do all my promos now. So Shellbration's coming up. It's the first week in December. It's I think the 15th or 16th annual. And so if anyone wants to get involved, either contact Darcy or you can contact me. We're lining up shuckers. There's often need for sign-in tables, and we can look at all of that stuff.
Hey, the shucking tables that you have by Little Creek, are you moving those?
Those are my shucking. Wait.
I know, as far as the location, because they're closed, right?
I don't know if anyone knew this, but so Ian and Rosalie closed down Little Creek, at the old bait shop, and however, bought a new place on
Yeah.
Carpenter Street. So they're going to, I have to double check. I need to call Ian tomorrow and just verify that he is going to be open for shucking there
Right.
and check in there. So it's going to be I think it's going to be awesome because you can literally be at the two sign-in and shucking table spots, and they're on the same street. You can look down the street and you can wave.
Right.
So
Sure.
they can also skip lines, and you could. It should be very interesting.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful place, Ian's new place. So there was a lot of love in the closing. Hundreds of people were at the closing, and it was a good time. It was a little too crowded, right?
Yeah.
Somebody, we were playing, Shuck and Jive was playing. Somebody took our tip jar out. They were smashed into it.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right. It was either that or leave us a tip. So on that note, Shuck and Jive and the jazz quartet have been drumming up some free love to a restaurant in Mattituck called Pukaberry. It's across the street from the Mattituck train station, next to the broken down valise, and it's a Filipino restaurant, but it's got like everything on it. They've got 8 menus. It's really funny. So we're showing up. The jazz band's playing on Fridays at 6, and Shuck and Jive is going to attempt to play their Saturday at 6. So we're going to test drive Saturday at 6.
Oh, cool.
So that's a promo, self promo. Here's another promo. Hey, Bart, that's Happy Oyster Company. I'm wearing this very bold blue t-shirt that I would never wear in public for this event. Bart's been remarkably helpful to the Spat program, and we love Bart. So that's his little Happy Oyster. He's rebuilding his place, by the way, in West Hampton Beach, which was a fabulous venue all summer long. So winterizing oysters. Here's the thing. I don't know if we really have winter anymore. Which is not a good thing for oysters. I mean, oysters, we could be happy as can be. I didn't shovel any snow last year. There was no skim ice on the creek. I used to walk across the creek when I lived across the creek. I walk on 8 inches of ice. And so that was in 97 or 8, 97 and 8, something like that. And, into early 2000s, it's definitely routine to get ice. And so oysters have a internal antifreeze, blood antifreeze. They've got a glycoprotein in their blood that keeps the oyster from freezing solid at very cold temperatures. That does not mean that an oyster left out of the water for months in the winter won't freeze solid. And it's not like a woolly mammoth. I don't think you can reanimate. Can you reanimate a woolly mammoth? I'm gonna have to look that up if anyone's successfully reanimated a woolly mammoth. I don't think so. But when an oyster is in incredibly cold water, but as you know, and it's a good thing, it's not like Kurt Vonnegut's Ice 9, where if ice were to freeze from the bottom up, then the oceans theoretically could freeze. That's what Ice 9 was in Kurt Vonnegut's, what's that, Cat's Cradle? That's how they destroy the planet, by dropping this thing that crystallizes water from the bottom up, and everything freezes solid. That's the end of that. So if you get freezing on the top, it's actually an insulation. The water below doesn't freeze. Oysters can handle that. They can handle being out of the water at low tide for a tidal cycle, but they're covered by water again. The problem with ice and winter is, if you have ice, let's go to Cape Cod, to Wellfleet, where the the oyster flats, when it evacuates of water at low tide, you can drive your truck out onto it, which they do. So if it's ice and it's going like that, it's just scouring everything away. And if your oysters lock up in ice and then the whole ice flow moves off at one point, there go your oysters. So what do they do in Wellfleet? A lot of these guys take all their oysters off the flats. They throw them in cages and bushel baskets and all this stuff. You see them go up to Cape Cod in December, and you'll see Chopper Young driving his pickup truck fully loaded like the Beverly Hillbillies, full of oysters, going to his container that he puts them upland for like 3 months, temperature control, so that they're not freezing. There's some humidity. They're not warm. They're not respiring. They're just hibernating, but not freezing. And so an oyster can stay out of the water for months in that condition. And so when you go to overwinter where we are now, it's really not as much of a challenge. There's caveats to everything. The oyster grower, there was one oyster grower in particular, used to come to, we were helping him out, and he would put his ice buoys out. This is right in Hogneck Bay in Southold, right in the Cutchogue Southold loop and by South Harbor Road. And he'd put these ice buoys out, which basically keeps the ice from forming and locking up the buoy. And it was a pain. You get out there, you put your ice buoys on, then the day goes by, the bay doesn't freeze. When does the bay ever freeze? So he stops doing it, and the next year the bay froze. And it caught his buoys, and it took him from Hogneck in Southold to Gardiner's Island. They were finding his cages. So ice will lift a VW off the bottom if it's tethered well enough and drop it, on Nemo when he's not expecting it, when it breaks free. So does that happen now? Well, my only concern has been, I've been at the Marine Center for 29 years now. So, and basically there all the time in the winter. So I've seen a lot of different winters. So I'll have to send some winter shots out of what the creek looks like when it's covered in ice. But I remember one year I had oysters in metal cages just sitting along the flats, and I left them there for the winter, and the ice crushed these cages flat as a pancake. But the oysters are fine. And they can handle that. They don't care about the cold. They just can't freeze. And the gear got destroyed. So ice is powerful. So my lizard brain always says, well, if you're floating your oyster cages and your floats are on the side, they float pretty high all the time. Okay? So the thought is that when the water gets cold, it could actually form ice in the cage. And now all of a sudden your cage can be kind of locked in ice if we had 8 inches of ice. I've left people alone. A lot of people don't do anything for overwintering. They just leave them the way that they've been growing them, and they do fine. Lately, I've just been having everybody put their floats on the top and leave them all the time on the top, because most people don't ever flip their oyster cages. If you don't flip your oyster cages, if you always take your oyster cages and pressure wash them, then you're not flipping them. You're not going out there shaking them and flipping them and walking away. That's what the commercial guys do. They don't have time for necessarily pressure washing everything. So if you're never flipping your oyster cage, have the floats on the top. When you say, what do I need to do to overwinter? Here's what you need to do. You need to re-secure all of your zip ties to make sure that you don't have crummy zip ties on the floats that are going to break and the float goes off or both go off. If both of your floats goes off, then how do you have them on your line? Is it zip ties on your line? Or are they the metal pins? Just check, because before you go to your last time you're going to see your oysters, check to make sure that everything can withstand 4 and 5 months of not looking at them. So securing the zip ties, getting good hardy zip ties on the floats. If you have them on the top, you'll leave them on the top for eternity. I've been trying to get people to use, we bought these white paint markers that write on the top of the floats. And if you have your floats on the top pointing up, that paint will stay a long, long time. You probably, and they're so easy to see. You look down and it's like, oh, geez, a little filing cabinet. Eventually we'll have everybody doing that. I moved Tiana stuff over to the Marine Center. For the first time, I left a lot of them in the cages because I used to, if people didn't come out to winterize their oysters in the lantern nets, which was the protocol at Tiana, then I did it. This year, I've changed a lot of thoughts. Do you have to use lantern nets? You don't ever have to use a lantern net if it's something you don't like. If it's something that works for you, by all means use it. A lantern net are those blue square box things with the little doors. Sometimes they're round with the Velcro, and you can put your oysters in there. You need some water depth. If you're hanging them from a dock, you don't need flotation on them. I use them a lot because it's kind of time saving. There's 5 tiers going down using the water column as opposed to surface area on the top. So they're handy for me, but that doesn't mean you have to use them. Even at Tiana's done now. I moved 100 growers out. I got a lot of help. There's some folks that can never make it. As a sideline, if you know that you're done with spat, drop me a line, because I know when people aren't coming back after they don't come back for a year and a half, and their stuff looks like Willie Nelson has fallen asleep in the Amazon jungle and a lot of growth got on him. Imagine that picture of Willie Nelson with lichens all over everything else. So, and all the oysters are dead. I mean, you open up these oysters, then some of them were beautiful, but the people stopped coming, and there's 99 dead ones and 1 live one. It's like, well, if you'd let me know, we would have given them away or something. So you're not going to do it. And we'll just, at least set them free, because they don't do well just left alone, at least at the Marine Center. The weird thing is, leave them at Goose Creek like I do, and you find them. I'm pulling up oysters that were from COVID, and they're the size of your feet. There's a lot of mortality, but I pulled up a lantern net, 5-tier lantern net, and there was no space in it. It was like a baggy wrinkle. It was completely filled with oysters. That's how they grew. And then they just said, I can't do this anymore. And a lot of them passed away, but we found them. They weighed about 500 pounds in net. So it's a good workout. And just staying, So, wintering, there are caveats to everything. Sometimes you get a winter, sometimes it's not about the ice. Sometimes you're going to get a winter storm that wants to rip your stuff away, and you don't want to go out and deal with it. So when you're winterizing, just make sure everything is secure so that you don't have to mess with it until it gets warmer out. So maybe double up on your line if it's tied to a dock, or, depending on how much wave action there is. And there was go through your oysters. You might as well, if it's the last time you're going to do it, what I would do is empty everything out, clean everything, get all the dead ones out, do an inventory, restock volumetrically so they're even and not overloaded or not too light, and close them up, and you're done till late April. Come May, you really should start coming around. If you come around for the first time in August, boy, I tell you, you're going to be in for a surprise at what happened. Come early and give them an oil change, and they'll treat you very well. Tiana stuff will go back as soon as the docks go back in there. So that's usually about mid-May. And Tiana folks will get everybody all squared away. This was the best, by the way. There are some Tiana folks on on the call today, this was the best year for inventorying. I wrote everything down. I don't know if you've been down to Tiana, but there's a new beach there. It's real. I haven't been back since they finished up, but it's quite different. And we'll have to figure out how we fit everybody that we had last year back. If we'll rig it up, but it looks quite different. Hopefully a good winter storm will take it all away. I miss all the metal riprap. I kind of like that stuff, but nobody else did. So, what else? Winterizing. The thing I always recommend is that whether you're growing at your own dock or if you're at the Marine Center or whatever, that if you're planning on eating some of your oysters between, now and but the time you put them away, make a special lunch box of those that you can harvest. You can't basically go out on the line in February. We don't have the boats in the water. We don't want to save anyone from hypothermia. So you can make it easy by setting up edible stuff like in a lantern net or label one of your cages so that you don't have to rifle through all your stuff trying to find the ones that you want. So that works. Do we have any questions or stuff? I mean, I kind of left this as an open forum.
Yeah, Kim, I do have a question.
Jeez, you're my biggest fan. It's only because you eat all the time during these things. You're just partying.
Hey,
Cheap entertainment. There's Kimmy saying hello too.
hi there.
Kim, I have a question.
Hey, wait, no, Chris is up. Wait your turn. I'm gonna scalp low numbers in a moment. Hold on, let me get my little ticker tape thing. Okay, Chris, go ahead. You're number one.
I know ice can be a problem at Cedar Beach. I'm in the creek. Ice could be a problem, but what about storms? Is there any storm action in the creek worth worrying about?
I would say, here's the thing. I know Cedar Beach very well. I've been in actually Superstorm Sandy. I've been in a bunch of hurricanes. I've been in blizzards and 8 inches of ice. I've pretty much seen brown tide, rust tide, good tide, good tidings to all. Certainly seen Roseovaris, a juvenile oyster disease, in a big, big way. I've seen a lot of stuff there, and I will tell you, it's a very safe place to be. I don't anticipate any significant ice this year. Even if we got ice, I would say everything would do fine where it is. Storms, nothing ever really happens. But on that note, one thing that I failed to mention when you are upgrading your zip ties and securing all your stuff, if you're growing at the Marine Center, also renew your orange tag, maybe your blue tag. Really make sure that the thing has something inside of it, because if a storm came up and you had a kind of a crummy zip tie on it and it breaks off and it goes into the wetlands, I go out, I find stuff. If there's no tags in it, I don't know whose it is. And I wait around for people to say, I lost something and it looked just like, if it was a black cage with black floats on it. Yeah, okay. I have one I looked at today from Tiana. It's marked UN, which has nothing to do with foreign policy. It's quite simply stands for unknown, okay? And that's not UK, which would be more like Britain, which is unknown. It's unknown. And because there's this bag of oysters with no tag, with nothing on it. There's no way of identifying it other than that it's a bag of oysters. So what I try to do is just keep them for when people say, well, I might have lost a blah, 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 and I have no oysters. We try to take care of people. We try to take care of everybody. So to answer your question, I don't think there's a storm that could be any worse than has happened there, that we survive pretty much everything. I mean, Superstorm Sandy took out a lot of equipment because the 7 feet of water that went over it, including my Volvo 240, went to the dashboard. Yeah, that was the end of that one. It was my son's car, and the insurance paid for it, so I was thrilled, actually. But I wouldn't worry a whole lot about the oysters at the Marine Center. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything else?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there's Kate.
Our
Kate's a car gal too, so she giggled when I said the.
yeah, I feel bad about the Volvo, but anyway, our oysters are at Tiana. Are they still
Oh,
there?
no. Oh, which oysters? All your oysters.
No, our lantern thingy.
Oh, you left it there?
Our lunchbox is there. We left it there,
Okay.
so it's still there.
I don't know. I haven't been to Tiana since that Tuesday that I moved everything out, but I know I wrote down this year, when I say I inventoried things well, this year, everybody's that I moved back, I wrote down how many nets, how many cages, and I put them in alphabetical order. So I have a whole couple different copies of the whole roster with everybody's stuff and how it's put away. I happen to know that West has a lot of stuff in Southold. I don't know what's at Tiana. I haven't been back. If people left stuff, if they were on the floating docks, then they're definitely not there because they took the docks and we cleared everything off of the docks. If they were hanging off of the main ramp that they can't move, not the one that goes down, but the main thing, if it was tied off to there, then it could be there. But if it was tied off to the dock, a cleat on the dock, then it's not there. I guarantee you, because the dock's not there. And the cleat's not there because I had to buy my own cleat. So I've got the cleats, they've got the docks, and you either have your lantern net at Tiana tied to the ramp that you tied it to, or it's at the Marine Center.
Okay. Thank you.
How'd that sound?
It sounds great.
That means I get to see you because you're going to come and say, no, it was definitely on a cleat on the dock. So it's got to be at Southold. So we'll see you at Southold.
Yes.
Oh, but on a note, no, but listen, on a note, poor Bart. Bart lives in, if you've been to Bart's restaurant on Peconic Road, it's really something, but Bart lives pretty close to Tiana and West Hampton. So if you need something delivered, he can bring it to Happy Oyster Company on Peconic Road. Just let me know if that saves you a trip. I know that driving a whole 45 minutes to Southold to some is like me going to Riverhead. It's almost unheard of. It's way out of my range, but so we can negotiate that. Just let me know.
Okay.
Good.
So, Kim, this is Joan Mahoney. I have just a quick question. I'm over at Gilgo. and
Gilgo, are you the sole Gilgo? You're the sole Gilgo?
There's two of us.
Two of you. Oh, congratulations. You know, we were thrilled. We got the permit and everything. It kind of came late, but I think next year you're going to have a lot of company there.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, but we're moving them. We have to move.
Or what? I haven't even seen the facility yet.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, but we're moving them. We're moving them from Gilgo over to Cedar Beach.
Are you?
Which is the education center. That's where we're going to keep them for the winter. But we're not keeping them in floating cages. We're supposed to sink them with crates.
No. Who told you that? Betty?
And Brian.
Betty and Brian. You don't need to do that. Sink them. You're in floating cages, right?
Yes.
Bring floating cages, as is. Does that help?
I don't know. I'm new. When somebody tells me to sink,
You're not new. You've been on this planet for years.
maybe.
No, listen. Do you have my email and do you have my phone number? Do you have anything?
I have your email.
Okay. If you email me and you have questions, I think, for instance, Tiana, it's no different than Gilgo. And we have 100 growers at Tiana. And if everyone had to go out of their way to do crazy stuff to overwinter them to get them to Southold, I wouldn't have 100 growers. I'd have me and, Kai, and that'd be it. And the rest of us would have given up a long time ago. And probably me, I would have given up a long time ago. So if it's easier for you to just take your oysters in the cages, throw them in a black garbage bag so they don't get any puddles in the Mercedes or the Volvo 240 with the water over the dashboard, and drive them to the Marine Center, and we'll winterize them for you.
So,
Well, I'm
so
gonna
Kim,
meet with
as
them on Friday.
Hold on. Hey, Chris, let Joan finish there because she's new. Newbies get all the attention in the world. You used to be a newbie, Chris, but now
I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm set to meet him, and where, there's not gonna be any.
I'm a little
dog.
confused about one thing. Did they, what were these sunken crates? What did they look like? Did you get?
So I bought milk crates, and I'm gonna, I have cement blocks.
Oh no, boy,
maybe-
did somebody really sent you down the wrong path. Okay, so, if you want to trade your cement blocks, Bart's looking for 400 cement blocks for his new foundation. So we could always buy the cement blocks off of you. The milk crates kind of come in handy in the garage for onions and things, but don't put your oysters in a milk crate with cement blocks. That's not
No, they sit on top. They're strapped to the top of the milk crate. And the milk crate is sunk and sits on the bottom.
at the Marine Center.
They're gonna be in the middle of the basin. They're
Oh,
not gonna
wait.
be attached to the
You
dock.
threw me off. You threw me off. See, I work at Cedar Beach in Southold, and you're talking about Cedar Beach. There's a Cedar Beach in every town. You're talking about a totally different Cedar Beach.
I'm talking about the town of Babylon.
Oh my gosh. Happy diving to get your oysters off of the crates. But okay, so they have a plan.
They have a plan.
Okay.
Hence my interjection, by the
Here's
way.
here,
Yeah,
Chris.
Then I shut up.
Before you do, no, don't interject yet, but I'm wondering if my interjection is going to be as good as your interjection.
No, that was my interjection
Was
was, we're
it?
talking about Cedar Beach, Babylon and Betty, not your Cedar Beach, but now we're past that.
Oh, you're one of you.
I'm Oak Beach, so I'm down the road.
Do you sink yours in crates?
No, I bring mine to the Marine Center because I'm on the ocean side, so
Okay.
I'm much more worried about the storms. I mean,
There's another reason, Chris. I'm still getting through my guilt trip with Chris because we seem to have misplaced for a while. We found it actually.
no, we're good. We're
Yeah,
good. So everything Kim said earlier about taking care of people who lose oysters, exhibit A, right? So I brought some stuff out there and it got lost in the shuffle, and I'm
And then
pretty sure we ended up with more oysters than I brought out there. So it's all good.
Yeah, and then we found it, and so you got those too. No, but here's the thing, and I think this is copacetic, because it's interesting talk about, I'm going to assume that the waters of Babylon and the waters, that sounds like a reggae line. Anyway, the waters of Babylon and the waters of Southold are close enough and safe enough that it wouldn't matter moving product from Babylon to Southold. If it were, for instance, New Jersey, it's against federal regulations. You would not be able to. No, actually, that's not true. You couldn't. Yes, no, that's true.
Well, it's
You couldn't-
interstate, right? So
Well, you can move. You can move north to south, but you cannot move south to north. Yeah, because of dermo and MSX.
the diseases, yeah.
So, what I was going to say, Joan, is that, I guess you have the option of straddling your stuff. I've got all kinds of, next time you buy anything, talk to me because I've got all kinds, you are in Babylon, so that's pretty far. Cement block and thing, and I guess it's shallow enough that you're going to deploy them and you'll be able to walk out and get them in the, let me know how you make out with that.
I'll take pictures.
Because It's just funny because Betty and all the people at Oak Island, except for Chris, they all winterize there, right at their, I
I
think.
think she sinks hers.
Yeah, she might
Yeah,
sink.
so I was over at Betty's a couple of weeks ago. We are discussing this. Where they are and where you are in Gilgo, that basically, Kim, they're behind Fire Island.
Yeah.
So they've got very calm, very shallow water. I happen to be on the other side. I'm in the Fire Island inlet, so I've basically got ocean.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Betty absolutely puts a cinder block in a crate, ties her cages to that, throws it in the water, ties a couple lines just in case, but you know,
And then has a buoy at the surface and pulls the line up with the thing, or is
it's
shallow?
it's 3 feet of water, so she can sit right
Okay,
outside
so
her house all winter
there's
long.
nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong at all with putting things on the bottom, and the scenario of a milk crate with a cement block in it and tying a cage to the top is fine, because what you don't want to do is just take the oyster cage and throw it on the bottom. That leads to all kinds of problems, but having a pedestal of some sort is fine. Keep in mind, if you're going to do that, what you don't want, and if it's really calm, it might just never be an issue, but you don't want to build something that's top heavy that falls over, because then your oysters are going to all go to the side and be on the bottom. So that would be the only problem, is that you don't want whatever contraption that you make to be top heavy, that it can topple over, because then you're completely defeating the purpose of it. You would want rather a wide base and closer to the ground, so that it can't possibly go over end. Okay. But the other option is just bring them to the other Cedar Beach. It'd have to be the right Cedar Beach, the Southold one, you could probably do both. Do a cage at the Marine Center, do a block at there, and see how they fared. But if you do that, you have to randomly split them in half, randomly, so that you don't bias the experiment. Okay? Anybody else?
Yes, Kim, I have a question for you. So I'm a
Sure.
brand new newbie. Okay, so my first year to try to overwinter, and we're in Shelter Island in West Neck Bay, and it's pretty calm there off our dock. I don't think we're gonna have trouble with storms so much, but we'll do some extra ties. But I was just wondering, like, if we see really terrible weather forecast where the freeze is gonna potentially be a problem, should we try to get out ahead of it or not?
Let's back up a couple things. Okay. You're on Shelter Island, you have a dock. Does the dock stay in the water? Part of it?
Well, we have, yeah.
There's
we
a
do.
fixed dock that stays in the water. At the end of the dock to its deepest part, how deep is the water at low tide?
Well, so that's
You can say-
probably.
You can say no water.
No, probably like 4 or 5 feet there.
Well,
But then we're gonna have the floating dock then sort of hung between other places where we could do it off the floating dock in deeper water.
Well, either one of them, 5 feet of water at low tide, you're in God's country with a dock. All I
Okay.
can tell you is, if you need the equipment to overwinter, if you don't, are you having them in, you have them in floating cages? Okay. If you went on to, again, I'm going to re-mention this only because, and I don't know if Darcy sees this or hears this, there's, in the chat are 2 links to overwintering lectures that I did in this kind of a forum. And I thought they were on our website. I'll have them put on the website eventually, but there's one explanation on how to take your floating cages and make them into a bridle that you can just tie to the dock and lower it down, and you'll be done. It won't be sitting on the bottom, because if you have a fixed dock with 5 feet of water, you can make anything you want, drop it to the bottom, and then lift it up 6 inches, and it's always off the bottom. So that's really easy. Okay. Oysters can go out of water in low tide. So 5 feet of water is plenty. the only thing I would say is make sure that your lines to the cleat or to the dock are robust. They won't chafe. Let's pretend that ice came in and it wants to saw at the line. So it, can it saw through a ½ inch? You can watch that so it doesn't happen. So you have it at your dock and a couple safety line if you want, but that we can help you out with that too. If you came by the Marine Center, we can make the whole rig up for you. What's interesting is at the Marine Center, we also have all these crates, these green, they were from the Shelter Island Oyster Company, and they're kind of like a bread tray. And I used to sink a lot of stuff on the bottom. I used to take wire, the like 12 gauge electrical wire, coated wire, not the strands, but the solid core. And I'd wire bricks to the bottom of these bread trays. And then I would run rigging through the bread tray, through the cages. And so nothing could get, I can make you a beautiful bottom rig and it costs no money. I'm not, Joe, and I don't mean to be going, you spent, but you bought a block. Did you actually buy a milk crate? I thought milk crates were ubiquitous on the highway. So no, but if you run out of material or you want to, I've got so much stuff to play around with at the Marine Center.
Are you open all winter?
Winter is our busiest time, as you'll find out from these further Zoom lectures. We're just about ready to start our algae culture. Then we're going to start conditioning broodstock. Then we're going to spawn on February 1. We're going to spawn on Valentine's Day. We'll do a clam spawn probably first week of March. Winter is our busiest time. Always has been, always will be. So yes, the answer is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to noon, never stops. My volunteers come in, they work in the shop. We work everything. It never shuts down. 25 years of Spat, and still I get no Monday, Wednesday, Fridays off. So.
Okay, I'll be out.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. So.
Yeah, I mean, Kim, just a follow-up. I'll probably be out Friday and I'll leave some oysters and maybe we can talk about it more than in person, but I'm curious as to
Friday. I'm on vacation Friday.
Awesome. When are you back?
Monday.
Well, maybe next week then, but
yeah,
I'm in a rough area. If I want to overwinter 6 inches off the bottom, what does that look like? How do I do that?
You have a dock, it stays in.
Yep. Yes.
Here's what you do, Chris, this year. How'd your oysters do?
Great. Well, the overwinter ones did great by you, but I had an awesome summer because we have so much tidal flow.
Good. So what you can do if you want is, if you want to hedge your bets and split them in half, move half to the Marine Center. And while you're at the Marine Center, we will get you bulletproofed for your other half. Because if you're
Awesome.
You're on the ocean side, but you have a dock. So theoretically, as long as something doesn't take your dock away, then we can make something that won't take the oysters away. If it takes the dock away, then your least concern are your oysters. Okay. Your more concern is your insurance company. So
we were 8 feet underwater in the house in Sandy. So hopefully we will not see that one again, but awesome. All right. I'll see you next week then.
Good. Excellent. Don't leave. Yeah. Was somebody there? Somebody?
Yeah, Kim, I had a question. Like Karen, I'm also a first year newbie. My question is, you gave me 50-50, some babies and then some adolescents. And the babies were in like a little 1/8 mesh, and the adolescents were in like 3/8 or ½ inch, something like that mesh. Is it time to move? I've had them since July, I guess.
Oh, it was time months ago.
Past time. Okay.
Yeah. So it's time for you to feel that you can network with us whenever you want. Okay. And if you look, by the way, that's an awesome backdrop. I'm guaranteed that that's a real brick wall in back of you.
It's a real brick wall. It's an old factory
it looks great,
wall.
and it really gives you awesome color. You look like you just came in from a wicked sunbathing thing. So So here's the deal. If you look newbies, if you look at the bottom of your contract, you will see the limited warranty on everything that you do. Okay. And you can enact that, but yes, if you need more, where are you growing your stock?
Also on West Neck Harbor.
West Neck and Shelter
Yeah.
Island. So
Yeah.
you know, I used to commute from the Springs and I used to live on Shelter Island. I know how hard it is to go through and off the rock, but you're certainly welcome anytime you want at Southold. I know it's tragically far away, but
It is.
you know, if you really, really are that particular about your ferry passes, just call me up. I'll pick you up at the North Ferry in Greenport. And you know, we have plenty of equipment. You don't want to so how did the new stock do in that cage? Did
They looked pretty good. I mean, they were growing and I kept it pretty clean. So
Yeah, I would definitely split and you know, at some point, if you want to come by the Marine Center, you can even bring your stock with you, bring your cages with you, and we can actually, it's kind of like giving them a pedicure. We take
give them a
well,
tumble.
it includes trading in the ones that just really you've been chasing around, but in true fact, they're no longer alive and they won't grow any bigger. So you have a warranty. I've still got, I'm still running 36 barrels of seed. So I can, and if you haven't been to the Marine Center, you know, Kai came by. Are you still there, Kai?
Yes, I am. I'm not
He
muted.
came by today and for his first time at the Marine Center, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty.
No, I've been a few times. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you need help doing that, or if you need more equipment, just let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
Kim, I do have a question. I went back and I cleaned up some of my oysters that I'm overwintering here.
Yep.
And they look rather pale. And I didn't take them out of the cages. I just power washed them off. But they've lost quite a bit of color in the shells. Is that something to be concerned about? Am I imagining it?
It's interesting. What color were they? I mean, you were keeping them pretty clean. So
Yeah. So, you know, where you see striations of brown and occasionally black, it's like mostly white now.
how interesting. And are they ever exposed out of the water at any point?
Shouldn't have been, not the last, now, I shouldn't have been.
Because usually when you see
Sometimes
the
I've been that long.
bleaching of the shell, it usually is sun bleaching. But
Well,
you haven't even had them moved for that long. So the only
Right.
thing I can think of is if there is actually like an algae that's growing at Tiana that isn't growing at your place, that it's been cleaned off and it's just not coming back. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with a really
Right.
nice white.
okay, all right, otherwise they look fine, and I'll take them out of the cages and
Yeah,
you know,
I
bring them
mean,
over
that's
for a tumble, who
interesting.
knows what, but I'll check them out.
Send me a picture.
Hey, Kai, how you doing? It's Bill. How you doing? Bill from Uncle Corinthian.
Hey, oh, geez, how are you?
How you doing?
Look familiar.
Yeah. We got that project done nice. We were working with Kim with Save the Great South Bay this year on growing spat on shell and putting it into our oyster sanctuary.
Yeah, I keep rolling over there, looking down. The water was incredibly clear the last week.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any, but I'm sure they're down there somewhere.
Yeah. We have them in Mark's spot. So yeah, we're very happy with the success we had this year. We're gonna do it again next year too.
Yeah, great. All right.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Right?
Likewise, Bill.
Thanks.
Regards to the missus. All right, I'm good. Thank you, Kim.
No worries. Good. How we doing? Everybody is, what time is it? Oh, yes, we've
Dinner time.
dinner time. Yeah, that means, oh, no, wait, is it oyster stew again tonight?
Oh, wow, really?
What
time you want us over?
Kimmy had a retirement party with all of her retirement from Sag Harbor Elementary School, and they had oyster stew, so they were happy.
Yeah.
Made me make a huge vat. She
Oh,
made
nice.
Now is the time to be eating oysters. And so
Oh,
come
my
out to
goodness.
Celebration and eat your oysters. And if you for newbies, if you want a couple dozen oysters for Thanksgiving, we'll set you up too, as supplies warrant. We have some oysters. So. Good.
Good.
And if you need anything, you got my email, and watch those links if you have any other questions. If you need any help, by the way, winter and when you need to winter is probably going to be around, in December. If you want to get it done early, get it done anytime now. Oysters will continue to feed and grow through December. They will. It's just not getting cold fast. So,
you're out this Friday, but you're in next week. You're in every day.
I'd have to look at my. I have to. I
want to come out next week, so
I have this crazy job where I get a lot of vacation time and then I don't take any of it.
Right.
And at the end of the year, I have to eat all of my accrued vacation time or I lose it. So I usually don't work more than 5 days in December and like 6 days in November, which is
Right.
crazy. So I'll be in on next week.
All right, good. I'll see you then.
Good.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, see you, everybody. Thank you much.
Everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye, thank
Bye-bye. Be
you.
well, thanks.